Sung Jin has become this season's anime husbando of choice and established a loyal army of shadow simps. But how? Why do people love Sung Jin-Woo? Is it the insane power, the cold confidence, or is it something deeper going on? Something psychological that makes him feel different compared to all the other overpowered protagonists? Because let's be real, there are a ton of OP main characters out there, so why does Jin-Woo feel different? Well, it turns out his appeal is built on 3 powerful psychological factors. And by the end of this video, you'll not only understand why Jin-Woo's so addicting to watch, but also how you can apply some of these traits in real life and build your own army of simps. So without further ado, let's get into it. Sung Jin-Woo is at his core what's known as a self-insert character. A character designed to be a blank slate so that the audience can project themselves onto them. Think of it like a creator character in a video game. The blank slate nature of these characters makes it easier to step into their shoes and live out their fantasy. Now, self-insert characters come in all shapes and sizes, some more popular than others. But what makes Jin-Woo different is that he embodies one of the most psychologically irresistible fantasies known to mankind, the zero to hero transformation. Jin-Woo turned on the hacks and sped ran his glow-up arc. He went from masochistic dungeon gooner who could barely lift a sword to an untouchable Chad with Sigma Lester energy, turning heads in the real world and commanding an army of shadow simps, all in a relatively short amount of time. And here's the thing, our brains are wired to find this type of transformation insanely satisfying, and the explanation is actually really interesting. You probably don't need me to tell you that humans love fantasy. Self-insert characters let us escape our boring 9-to-5 existence and experience something infinitely cooler. They live out the power fantasies we secretly crave, becoming insanely strong, gaining respect, and having the entire world acknowledge our greatness. But this isn't just a you thing, this is a universal psychology thing, and it all comes down to mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are special brain cells that activate when we watch someone do something, making us feel like we're doing it ourselves. They're the reason why you feel really hype watching an intense anime fight scene, or you feel pain watching this clip.
Power is fine. I'll show you the power of a demon.
Since self-insert characters like Jin-Woo are designed to be easier to project onto, our mirror neurons fire even harder when watching him succeed. When Jin-Woo's flexing on ice elves, your brain subconsciously feels like you're the one who's flexing. This is why power fantasy anime feels so damn good to watch. It's not just entertainment, it's psychological wish fulfillment on PEDs. Speaking of fulfillment, I think another thing that's also universally true is the fact that we all love a good underdog story. It's why it's one of the most popular types of stories that get made in Hollywood, and it's because for many people, it's extremely relatable. From the very beginning of Solo Leveling, Jin-Woo's whole brand is that he's the weakest hunter in history. His existence makes people feel safe, not because he's a badass or anything, but because if he's on your team, A, the dungeon is probably as easy as subscribing to this YouTube channel, and B, you could probably trip over your own sword and shit yourself in a dungeon and still get more clout and loot than this guy.
Why am I such a loser? Why?
Needless to say, being Jin-Woo in the beginning of Solo Leveling sucks, and there's no sign of changing that because Hunter's ranks don't change until he has his encounter with the system. It might not be a perfect match, but let's be real, who hasn't felt like an underdog at some point? The imposter syndrome, the pressure to prove yourself, the feeling that the whole world is stacked against you. That's why Jin-Woo's struggle hits so hard. This is such a common scenario that 8 in 10 millennials report feeling like they're not good enough in today's modern world, further showcasing how a lot of people will understand and resonate with Jin-Woo's underdog story. Even though he was aided by the system, he still did a lot of the grinding and heavy lifting. He worked hard in silence and let success be his noise. Jin-Woo's transformation from sniveling chihuahua to lone alpha wolf mirrors real-life self-improvement aspirations. The grind, the glow-up, the respect that comes with it, which is why it's no wonder why he has an army of sims cheering him on. But here's where it gets deeper. Jin-Woo isn't just a self-insert for power, he also taps into something more primal, the universal desire for confidence. Who doesn't want to walk into the room and have everyone acknowledge that you're him? Jin-Woo embodies the Sigma male archetype, popularized by characters like John Wick. Calm, strategic, composed under pressure, surgical with everything he does. This is all post-transformation, by the way. We're not talking about this guy. This is extremely important because confidence makes simps. I've kind of talked about confidence in the past with my Bakugo video, which, if you're liking this, you should definitely check out. But essentially, confidence is a cheat code for attraction, and Jin-Woo's glow-up isn't just about muscle, it's about presence. He goes from uncertain and ignored to someone who owns owns every room he walks into. And that magnetic effect is something that's backed by real psychology. See, humans are wired to respect and follow strong, capable individuals. It's a survival instinct. In prehistoric times, confidence signaled competence. Leaders who showed confidence were more likely to protect their tribe and make good decisions. Today, confidence still subconsciously signals strength, control, and high social status, which is why people are drawn to it. If you were going to war and I asked you to pick your champion from these two, I don't need to see the future to know who your choice is. In Solo Leveling, it's Jin-Woo's cold confidence that gives him that aura, even if on paper he's significantly below his peers in an E rank. Putting it simply, Jin-Woo acts like a king, and as a result, he gets treated as such. Just compare Sung Jin-Woo to Sung Jin-Woo side by side, you can literally see the shift in how people treat them. It's night and day. And while Solo Leveling is obviously fiction, art often imitates life, and the way confidence transforms Jin-Woo's entire presence is a very real psychological phenomenon. In fact, in 2012, a study found that those who self-reported higher levels of confidence earlier in school earned better wages and were promoted more quickly than their peers, which is insane to think about because it's almost as if the only stat Jin-Woo had to level up was just his confidence. But here's a key detail that most people will get wrong. Confidence isn't arrogance.
And what gave you the confidence?
Delusion.
It's about assurance. Charismatic people aren't necessarily the loudest in the room. They're the ones who exude confidence without trying too hard. Jin-Woo's not getting out his E-lotion, pulling out his E-cock, and glazing himself 24/7. In fact, he finds that kind of performative confidence beneath him. And it's the difference between being admired and being a clown. The easiest way to embody this confidence yourself is to eliminate neediness. People are naturally repelled by desperation. It signals weakness and insecurity. It's the reason why there's a whole subreddit dedicated to laughing and cringing at needy guys doing mental gymnastics for female validation. Confidence means you don't need external validation, and ironically, that makes people respect you even more. If Jin-Woo folded every time someone slightly intimidating showed up, the fans would likely simp for him significantly less than they do, which is a lot. Like I mentioned before, you'll also notice Jin-Woo operates on a show don't tell principle. He almost never needs to say that he's confident because you can see that he is from his body language. He confidently takes up space in his environment. His face is unfazed, calm, and collected. His eye contact game is even more intense than Igris's sword tricks. All of these things really pull the whole picture together. If Jin-Woo said the things he said, but looked like this all the time, it wouldn't look nearly as cool in practice. Confidence is powerful, but what about confidence mixed with something darker? Jin-Woo doesn't just exude confidence, he embodies cold, calculated dominance, and that's where his shadow personality comes in. Shadow psychology calls from Carl Jung's theory of the shadow self, the idea that every person has a hidden, darker side to their personality. This shadow isn't necessarily evil, but it includes all the traits that we suppress or ignore because it doesn't fit with our ideal self-image. This isn't a full list, but some of the traits include aggression, selfishness, ruthlessness, and desire for power. Jung would say that true solo leveling happens when we integrate our shadow instead of pretending it doesn't exist. We acknowledge it and learn to control it through shadow work. But what the frick is shadow work? Shadow work is the process of facing, understanding, and integrating the hidden parts of yourself, your anger, your ambition, fears, and desires, so that they work for you instead of against you. Accepting your shadow doesn't mean being a reckless asshole. It means owning every part of yourself without shame, which makes you more authentic, confident, and respected. The psychology behind this is that what we resist often persists. If I showed you this very real clip,
Correct.
and ask you not to think about it the next time you watch Solo Leveling, chances are it's gonna be pretty hard. So how does shadow work make people more likable? How does integrating these darker traits result in Riz that folds people like a lawn chair? Well, I'm gonna get into all of that and more, but first, there are a few misconceptions we're gonna have to tackle. Most people think being likable means being nice, agreeable, and avoiding conflict. But in reality, people are drawn to those who are real, balanced, and self-assured. Integrating your shadow doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you magnetic because it removes insecurity, neediness, and fake humility. Shadow work is about owning every part of yourself. And when you do, you stop pretending to be perfect, which makes you more real, more relatable, and ultimately more respected. Jin-Woo doesn't pretend to be nice, and he's not one of those protags with a hero complex. He exists fully embracing his desires and his humanity. And because of that, when he speaks, good or bad, you know he means it. That kind of authenticity commands respect. Following up on the anti-people pleasing, people who integrate their shadow, don't let others walk all over them. The person who agrees to everything just to be liked is often taken for granted, which is literally what happened to Simpu at the beginning of the show. But a person who knows their worth and says no when necessary is respected, glazed, and simp heavy. Even if people don't always act like that in the moment, they know when to say no, when to walk away, when to stand their ground, which earns them respect. The old Jin-Woo was a doormat, but the new Jin-Woo?
Whoa, I sound sexy as fuck. Yada yada. Now bend over.
And lastly, when you accept your shadow, you stop being controlled by fear. Most people hide parts of themselves out of fear of rejection. Integrating your shadow means you no longer feel ashamed to be you. Jin-Woo doesn't need external validation. He simply moves through life on his own terms, focusing on his own goals. And that's why others admire him. Jin-Woo's not here to be liked. He's here to be great. And that greatness, ironically, makes other people infatuated with him. At the end of the day, Sung Jin-Woo isn't just another overpowered protagonist. He's the perfect storm of everything that makes a character insanely compelling. His journey isn't just about getting stronger, it's about embracing every part of himself. His weakness, his confidence, his darker instincts, without letting any of those things control him. In other words, Jin-Woo makes simps because he's the ultimate underdog. His story taps into the universal desire for self-improvement. We all want to believe that we can become something greater, and vicariously watching someone take those steps turns you into a fan. His stoic confidence. He never seeks validation, never over-explains himself, and carries himself like someone who knows exactly what he's worth, which makes other people naturally respect him. And lastly, the power of shadow psychology. Unlike other protagonists, Jin-Woo doesn't suppress his darker traits, he integrates them. He isn't afraid to be ruthless, dominant, or ambitious, but he also never lets those traits out of control and control him, which makes him still feel very human and caring around the people he loves. He's the embodiment of everything we admire in a character. He's proof that confidence without arrogance, power without recklessness, and embracing both strength and vulnerability creates a truly magnetic personality. And maybe, just maybe, that's why people glaze him. As always, this isn't a conclusive list, and I really want to hear from you what are the reasons you love Jin-Woo, psychological or otherwise. In any case, I hope you really enjoyed the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and I will see you all in another video. Peace.